What if a federal court just stopped an immigration change that was about to affect millions of people across the United States? This is the question now spreading across legal networks, immigration forums, and news outlets, as reports confirm that a major court ruling has temporarily blocked a significant immigration policy shift that was set to take effect. The reason this story is generating so much attention is because court interventions in immigration policy have become increasingly common and increasingly consequential. When a federal judge issues an injunction against a government policy, it can halt implementation nationwide, creating uncertainty for applicants, agencies, and enforcement officials alike. And that is exactly what appears to be happening right now. To understand the significance of this ruling, you need to understand how immigration policy changes typically unfold and why the courts have become such a critical battleground. When the executive branch seeks to change immigration rules, it can do so through executive orders, policy memoranda, or formal rulemaking through the Federal Register. These changes can affect everything from how green card applications are processed to how deportations are prioritized to what benefits immigrants can access. However, these changes are subject to legal challenge. Advocacy organizations, state attorneys general, and affected individuals can file lawsuits arguing that the changes violate federal law, the Constitution, or proper administrative procedures. When a court agrees that there is a likelihood of harm and a strong legal argument against the policy, it can issue a preliminary injunction, stopping the policy from taking effect while the case proceeds. Sources familiar with the current ruling indicate that a federal district court has issued precisely this type of injunction against a recent immigration policy change. While the specific details of the blocked policy are still being clarified in court documents, reports suggest that the change involved significant alterations to how certain categories of immigrants would be processed or how certain benefits would be administered. The government had argued that the changes were necessary to improve efficiency, reduce fraud, and ensure that immigration benefits are reserved for those who truly qualify. However, the plaintiffs in the case argued that the changes were implemented without proper notice and comment procedures, that they would cause irreparable harm to affected immigrants, and that they exceeded the authority granted to the executive branch under existing immigration law. The court appears to have found these arguments persuasive enough to halt the policy pending further review. This is not a final ruling on the merits of the case. It is a temporary measure designed to maintain the status quo while the legal issues are fully litigated, but the practical effect is immediate and significant for immigrants who would have been affected by the policy change. The injunction provides temporary relief. Applications that might have been denied under the new rules will continue to be processed under the previous standards. Enforcement actions that might have been taken under the new policy will be paused, and individuals who were scrambling to prepare for the changes now have more time to assess their options. However, this relief comes with significant uncertainty. Court injunctions can be appealed, modified, or overturned. The government has already indicated that it intends to challenge the ruling, and the case could eventually reach the Circuit Court of Appeals or even the Supreme Court. Depending on how the appellate courts rule, the policy could ultimately be reinstated, modified, or permanently blocked for immigration attorneys and advocacy organizations. This ruling represents both a victory and a warning. It demonstrates that the courts remain willing to scrutinize immigration policy changes and to intervene when they believe proper procedures have not been followed. But it also highlights how unstable the current immigration landscape has become. Policies can change rapidly, be challenged in court, and then change again depending on the outcome of litigation. This creates enormous difficulty for immigrants trying to plan their lives and for attorneys trying to advise their clients. The institutional implications of this ruling extend beyond the immediate policy at issue. DHS and uscis must now determine how to implement the court's order across their operations. Field offices must be instructed on how to handle pending applications. Enforcement priorities must be reassessed, and agency officials must be prepared to pivot again if the ruling is modified or overturned on appeal. This kind of operational uncertainty can slow processing times, create confusion among applicants, and lead to inconsistent outcomes depending on when and where applications are filed. For individuals currently navigating the immigration system, the most important thing to understand is that this situation is fluid. What is true today may not be true next week or next month. Applicants should stay informed about developments in this case and should be prepared for the possibility that the rules could change again. Those with pending applications should continue to monitor their cases and should consult with qualified immigration attorneys if they have questions about how this ruling affects their specific situation. Advocacy organizations are urging affected individuals not to make major decisions based solely on this injunction. While it provides temporary relief, it does not guarantee a permanent outcome. Individuals should continue to gather documentation, meet filing deadlines, and prepare for multiple possible scenarios at the federal level. This ruling is likely to intensify the ongoing debate over immigration policy and the role of the courts in checking executive authority. Supporters of the blocked policy will argue that the courts are overstepping their bounds and interfering with legitimate enforcement efforts. Opponents will argue that the courts are properly fulfilling their constitutional role in ensuring that the government follows the law. This is a developing story with significant implications for the future of immigration policy in the United States. Further updates are expected as the case proceeds through the courts, and as the government responds to the injunction. For now, the immigration community watches and waits, knowing that the next ruling could change everything once again.